I mentioned that there's always, unfortunately, been a need for security amongst Jewish Australians and Jewish institutions. But the frequency, the visibility, the intensity of these anti-Semitic
Komisi
attacks
Kerajaan
has
Australia tentang
fundamentally changed in the past
antisemitisme
few
dan
years.
kohesi sosial resmi memulai sidang publik di Sydney dengan kesaksian yang menyoroti meningkatnya serangan anti-Yahudi dalam beberapa tahun terakhir. Seorang saksi mengungkap dampak psikologis mendalam dari tragedi penembakan di Bondi Beach yang menewaskan belasan orang pada 2025. Laporan terbaru juga mencatat lonjakan signifikan insiden antisemitisme di Australia, jauh di atas rata-rata sebelumnya. Sidang ini menjadi langkah awal pengumpulan bukti, dengan laporan akhir dijadwalkan rilis pada 2026.
And I just really want all of our children to grow up in Australia feeling safe just being who they are.
And the condition of the Jews in that part of the world was hideous. We were subjected to state anti-Semitism, which manifested in the form of anti-Semitic laws which kept the Jews out of certain professions, regulated where we could and couldn't live. It then cascaded through the institutions, through academia, where Jews were subjected to entry quotas in universities. We were banned from certain professions entirely. And because it was so prevalent in the institutions and sanctioned by government, it then became public, it became common, it became part of the national fabric to view the Jews as being lesser human beings. And I think we've seen elements of that in this country in the last few years, where it's gone from the institutions to the mainstream. And speaking to my parents and grandparents and very many members of the Soviet Jewish community growing up and through my adult life, the thing that terrified them the most, it wasn't even the fear of the pogrom, it wasn't even the collaboration with the Nazis in World War II. It was the daily ridicule, the humiliation, the street abuse that they faced in the shop queue, on the trolley bus, in the schoolyard. The Jewish people had their lives and value wholly debased. And when that occurs, you see rampant violence when the opportunity presents itself, and you see a complete dehumanization of people. And
over the past 2 years, anti-Semitism in Australia has run riot. It has not been checked, it has not been stopped. Whatever has been done has been insufficient. On Sunday evening, which was the 14th of December, that became an inarguable fact. The time for evading or muddying the issue is over. The time for distracting, for gaslighting, for manufacturing complexity that does not exist is over. We can have all the political disagreements in the world, and we should be able to express them reasonably, but hateful rhetoric has to stop, demonization has to stop. Pandering to movements that want to kill every Jew everywhere has to stop. It falls to all leaders of all groups and communities to set an example and to call out when their example is not followed. Let no one deny what globalized Intifada means. It means Jewish blood on the sands of Bondi Beach. How has it come to this? In our beautiful country, beautiful in its nature and its people, a place some of us have chosen to make our home and raise our families, and a place where some of us were lucky enough to be born. How can we reclaim the decent Australia we thought was unbreakable? Preventing a repetition, God forbid, of this atrocity will require wisdom and effort.
I'm a Jewish Australian. I make this submission as a survivor of the Holocaust, a former refugee and a proud Australian citizen. I'm 86 years old. I have lived through the worst of what hatred can do to people, and I have also experienced the best of what an open, tolerant society can offer. I give this testimony because I believe both experiences are relevant to the work of this Royal Commission, and because I feel a deep obligation to speak while I still can. I ask the Commission to receive this testimony in the spirit of which it's offered, not with bitterness, but with urgency and with a genuine desire to serve our nation and the many Jewish and other peace-loving Australians who called it home. What is happening in Australia today is not a faint echo of a distant past. For those of us who lived through the 1930s and 1940s, it is something we recognize, and that recognition is frightening and cause for alarm.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.